I'm wearing this jersey today because, I don't know, when else am I going to wear my P.K. Subban Nashville Predators jersey? June 29th, 2016, truly one of the wildest days of transactions we've seen maybe ever in the National Hockey League. You might remember that as the summer of Stamkos sweepstakes before he signed his big deal to stay in Tampa. Taylor Hall was traded for Adam Larson 1-for-1. We should probably do a trade tree for that at some point. And then the Montreal Canadiens and Nashville Predators with a blockbuster exchanging number one right-handed defenseman. Maybe the most amazing part about it is all three of those transactions happened within about half an hour of each other. But today, we only focus on one. Now that we've passed the half-decade mark, how has it already been a half-decade? Let's take a look back at the P.K. Subban Shea Weber trade tree. Now we must go back in time. Shea Weber has only ever played for two NHL teams, the Nashville Predators and the Montreal Canadiens. Shea Weber has also only signed contracts with two NHL teams. They are the Nashville Predators and the Philadelphia Flyers. What? We have to go back to July 2012. Now, what was going on back in July 2012? Oh, I know. We were getting ready to miss half an NHL season with a lockout because contracts are too gosh darn long. And so what NHL teams did is they said, because contracts are too gosh darn long, we're not going to sign any that are too gosh darn long. And by that, I mean there was an explosion of really, really long contracts this summer, including Zach Parise and Ryan Suter going to the same team, and the Philadelphia Flyers signing a restricted free agent, Shea Weber, to a 14-year, $110 million offer sheet. And that context is important. Remember only a couple years ago when Marc Bergevin signed Sebastian Aho to an offer sheet to entice him away from the Carolina Hurricanes? Well, the Hurricanes easily matched that. And a lot of people were like, really, Mark? That's it? Well, the contract that was offered to Aho was just a shade under $42.3 million, which you might have noticed is far less than half of $110 million. And this was the Philadelphia Flyers really trying to put financial strain on the Predators to try to pry Shea Weber away. Here's how it's constructed. Bless CapFriendly.com. I don't know what we would ever do without them. $13 million signing bonus in year one, $13 signing bonus in year two, $13 million signing bonus in year 3 and 4, and then $8 million signing bonus in both year 5 and 6. And on top of that, it also includes a salary of $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, $4 million, and $4 million. It was a $110 million contract over 14 years, but $80 million of it was to be paid over the first 6. That's over $13.3 million on average for each of the first 6 seasons, which you might have noticed is more than Connor McDavid's current cap hit. It was a very, very, very large deal for a very, very, very large defenseman, let's be fair. Shea Weber is big. Shea Weber is mean. Shea Weber's beard is allegedly made of fists. He was once described as a man mountain. He is a terror in the corners. He's a terror in front of the net. He has been on Team Canada, and he was the captain of the Nashville Predators. He was a consistent 20-goal scorer as a defenseman on the blue line because of his terrifying, well-respected shot. Always in competition was Zdeno Chara for the hardest slap shot in the hardest slap shot competition at the All-Star Game, and has been said to have the hardest standing still slap shot in the National Hockey League. Shea Weber is a force. And then there's P.K. Subban. Perhaps not as feared as Shea Weber in the corners or in front of the net, but has been known to throw the occasional earth-shattering hit. Brad Marchand knows that quite well. Yes, he does have one of the most electric and enthusiastic personalities in the entire NHL, but his playing style matched that. Finesse, spinoramas, setting up plays with the puck, scoring goals with the puck. There was the occasional friction between P.K. Subban and the Montreal Canadiens, specifically general manager Marc Bergevin, where there was a bit of a contract dispute and P.K. actually missed games. So what does he do? P.K. signs a bridge deal and then goes on to win the Norris Trophy as the best defender in the National Hockey League. A trophy that Shea Weber has been nominated for several times and even finished second twice, but has never actually won. And what do you do when you sign a bridge deal to help out your team and then go on and uphold your end of the bargain by winning the Norris Trophy? You secure the bag. Subban went on to sign a $72 million contract, which you'll note is a lot less than $110 million still. That's why they had the lockout. But he signs for the maximum of 8 years, because that was the new maximum, at $9 million a season. So then comes 2016. Weber, 4 years into his 14-year deal. Subban, 2 years into his 8-year deal. They are both still forces of nature in the National Hockey League. Incredibly good in their own unique ways. And both Dave Poile of the Nashville Predators and Marc Bergevin of the Montreal Canadiens wanted to make a splash, and this was seismic. The trade was 1-for-1. P.K. Subban going away from the team that he cheered for growing up to the Nashville Predators in exchange for the Predators' captain, Shea Weber. There's almost too much to go through in terms of storylines. Subban in the locker room, and he's too much of a personality, and wait a sec, don't you want a personality? Then there was Shea Weber, who is older, and is there going to be injury trouble? And there was obviously cap recapture considerations. What happens if he retires early? A question that we may get an answer to at some point in the future. But I'm focused on the money here, because you cannot talk about this trade without talking about the money, because there's so much of it. At the time of the trade, Subban still had 6 years left at $9 million per season against the cap. According to Cap Friendly, again, I don't know what I would do without Cap Friendly, it was $58 million owed in actual cash. Shea Weber, on the other hand, at the time of the trade, had 10 years left on his contract with a cap hit of $7.857143. Let's just say 785 because it's easier. Actual amount of money that Shea Weber was owed left on his contract, $54 million. So Subban owed 58, Weber 54. To us, that's a massive discrepancy. For the Montreal Canadiens and Nashville Predators, who are both National Hockey League teams, not as much. So the Montreal Canadiens getting the older guy with a lower cap hit, the Nashville Predators getting the younger guy with a higher cap hit. Early returns for the trade were wild for both teams. The 2016-17 season, Shea Weber was fantastic for the Montreal Canadiens, finishing 6th in Norris voting. P.K. Subban, on the other hand, maybe didn't have the Norris votes, but he did end up going to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final with the Nashville Predators, bringing Nashville closer to the Stanley Cup than they had ever been before, within 2 wins of the thing. This is the part where Preds fans pause and go, "Hornquist!" and then they get back to the video. Despite falling short of the Stanley Cup in 2017, Subban actually had a great 17-18 season, getting nominated for the Norris Trophy and finishing 3rd. We know he was a Norris nominee. How do you know he finished 3rd? Once again, thank goodness for HockeyReference.com. NHL Trade Tracker, Hockey Reference, and Cap Friendly. They make the world go round. But Shea Weber, who's supposed to be the older one here, he's supposed to be breaking down the hard miles on the body, he still finished 15th in Norris voting in 2020. I know 15th isn't very close, but he got Norris votes in 2020. Oh, what happened in 2021? Oh, yeah, I should probably mention that Shea Weber also went to the Stanley Cup Final, bringing the Habs to within 3 wins just a few weeks ago. You saw it. I was streaming it. Did you watch the streams? Shea Weber has played 275 games for the Montreal Canadiens so far and is their captain, scoring 58 goals, 88 assists, and 146 points over those games. Glad you asked, he's also played in 38 Stanley Cup playoff games with the Montreal Canadiens, 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points. But in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it becomes less about the points and more about the cracked ribs, and he has helped administer some of those. It should be mentioned, P.K. Subban has still played more Stanley Cup playoff games with the Nashville Predators than Shea Weber has with the Montreal Canadiens. Subban's been in 41. 7 goals, 17 assists for 24 points during that span. Here's where it's interesting though. Subban has played 211 games with the Nashville Predators in the regular season, 35 goals, 95 assists for 130 points. Wait a second, Weber's played a lot more games with the Habs than Subban has with the Predators. Yes, he has, on account of Subban got traded, and that's why this trade tree continues. With Shea Weber, hey, at the time I'm shooting this, we don't even know if Shea Weber is going to play this upcoming season. The Montreal Canadiens, after the Stanley Cup Final, announced that he has several injuries. Who knows when he's going to come back? If he comes back and the Montreal Canadiens were to trade him, believe me, we would be on it on this YouTube channel. But until then, we're going to focus on the guy who was actually traded after the initial deal in 2016, P.K. Subban. And I actually remember this trade. I remember where I was. This was day 2 of the 2019 draft in Vancouver. The Nashville Predators sent P.K. Subban to the New Jersey Devils in exchange for Steven Santini, Jeremy Davies, a 2019 second rounder, and a 2020 second rounder. That's a decent little package, but it definitely lacks the sizzle of the initial trade from 2016. Subban's 2018-2019 season with Nashville wasn't bad, but it wasn't quite to his standard, and it certainly wasn't to a $9 million a year standard. That's probably why it lacked the sizzle a bit, but let's see what the Nashville Predators get. We'll start with Steven Santini. That's a pretty easy one, a former second-round pick from 2013. Hey, that's not bad, except for he only played 2 games with the New Jersey Devils before signing as a free agent with the St. Louis Blues. Well, that branch is done already. Then there's Jeremy Davies. He's a 7th-round pick from 2016. He played 16 games with the Nashville Predators over this past season, 0 goals, 1 assist. At the time I'm shooting this, he's still with the Nashville Predators organization, so nothing to report. That branch is basically, it's done for the time being. Then there's the 2 draft picks, and this is where it actually gets kind of fun. So the 2018-19 season, the New Jersey Devils were not good. So this pick that Nashville got was actually 34th overall, which is only a few picks shy of being a first rounder. The Philadelphia Flyers, it's funny how they keep cropping up, said, "We like that pick, can we have it?" And Nashville said yes. The Nashville Predators traded the 34th pick overall, that 2019 second that they got from the Devils, to Philadelphia in exchange for another second rounder, but this one is 45th overall, and a 2019 third that was 65th overall. With the 45th overall pick in 2019, the Nashville Predators select Igor Athenasyap, a forward who is 6'3" and over 200 pounds. He played this past season in the KHL with CSKA Moscow, 6 points in 16 games. I should put an asterisk on that. It's really difficult and really rare for players that young, he's only 20, to get ice time in the KHL. With the 65th overall pick in 2019, the Nashville Predators select Alexander Campbell, another forward who had 13 points in 22 games this past season at Clarkson University. And right now, both are still in the Predators organization, so that branch is done. And that's something I want to say before we continue. A lot of people asked for this trade tree, and why wouldn't we do it if a lot of people asked for it? But this is a pretty young trade tree, actually. Obviously, so much of this video revolved around Shea Weber and Subban and the context of the deal and the context of the time. But this trade tree is still growing, and there's lots of parts to it. But we can't write these guys off just yet or declare them superstars. It's too early. We're talking about like 19 and 20-year-olds involved in this deal still. Bringing us to the 2020 second rounder that Nashville got from New Jersey. Now this one, also still pretty good. It was 37th overall in 2020. And once again, Nashville flipped this pick, this time to the Minnesota Wild, and oh, it wasn't for futures. This was actually a decently large deal. The Nashville Predators packaged this draft pick, 37th overall, along with a 2020 third rounder, 70th overall, and forward Nick Bonino. They sent him to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 2020 fourth rounder, 101st overall, and Luke Kunin. Funny how 2016 seems to keep cropping up in this trade tree, because Luke Kunin was actually the 15th overall pick in 2016, just 5 years ago. This past season, his only season with the Nashville Predators, in 38 games, Luke Kunin had 10 goals and 9 assists for 19 points. Now, that might not sound like much to you, but remember, it's just 38 games that he had those 19 points in over an 82-game season, half a point a game pace. That's a 41-point pace, which would be the best pace of Luke Kunin's career. Remember, he's only 23. He also had 2 goals in the 6 games that the Predators played in the playoffs this past season. And what about the 2020 fourth rounder? Well, 101st overall, the Nashville Predators select defenseman Adam Wilsby, who played this past season with Skellefteå of the SHL in Sweden. With 18 points in 48 games over there, Wilsby was actually the second leading defensive scorer on Skellefteå. Not bad for the 20-year-old. So for now, that's that. We're done with this trade tree until something else happens. Which means this is the part of the video where we discuss, well, who won? The easy answer, and the answer I'm expecting to see the most, is Montreal. And why not? There's some recency bias there. After all, the Montreal Canadiens just made it to within 3 wins of the Stanley Cup, going all the way to the Stanley Cup final, where they ran into a team $18 million over the cap. I get it! I get the anger! And Shea Weber was the captain of that, and he was a big part of that. But the picture with Nashville is a little harder to read. After all, they traded for P.K. Subban, like the biggest gamble in the franchise's history, trading their captain for this guy, and he immediately repaid them with a trip to the Stanley Cup Final. The first year after this trade happened, the Predators went to the Cup Final. Yeah, and then they traded him. Yeah, they did trade him. And they got some stuff. And some of that stuff was just drafted. It's still developing. So this is a trade tree that is going to grow and grow over the years. The correct answer is, I don't think there's a correct answer. The trade tree's still growing on Nashville's side. It could grow on Montreal's side. And who knows, Shea Weber could play next season, not play at all. We don't know. There are too many questions up in the air at the time that I'm shooting this, which I should preface is actually the day of the expansion draft. How did it go? I like the part where I had to do a 2-hour stream several hours after all the picks were announced anyway. Anyway, truly curious to see what you have to say in the comment section about this truly fabled and emotionally charged, impactful deal. It's a big one. But for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you liked this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Cap recapture could be its own video by the time this is all said and done. We'll see.